when we started out, we were quite heavily Motorhead influenced, and you can hear that from the very earliest stuff that we did. And then listening to a certain Newcastle band a couple of years ago, what would that be, 9 years ago, we realized that yes, you can do that. But the other guys in the band were fed up with Saxon and Iron Maiden, and I had a quite difficult time persuading them to actually go faster and to actually sing about this satanic thing. And we did that for 3 records, and then I realized that in my lyrics I was more or less critical to this whole religious stuff than I thought I was, and I realized Sweden had a very interesting mythology in itself, the Viking thing. And you had to do it in the right way, so that people wouldn't believe that you were serious about it, that we do rape and pillage. It was just a story thing, like the satanic thing. We haven't decided on whether we want to make another studio record, because, like I said before, going from Twilight of the Gods to where? You would either have to take it one step further, and then perhaps people wouldn't be able to understand it, and it would just be absolutely nothing. And otherwise you could go back and do what you did 5 years ago, and then you wouldn't progress anyway. Well, you could satisfy yourself musically, or you could satisfy some people and sell a certain amount of records and make sure to make some money. And if that's what you want, and if that's the ambitions you have, that's okay. But we'll do these 2 Jubileum things first. One now and one early next year. And if it turns out to be a success, if we surprise people in a positive way with the unreleased material, which is on these 2 CDs, then perhaps we will dig a little deeper into what we have on tape and perhaps come up with something next summer. We have used 2 tracks that was recorded on a 4-channel equipment back in July, I believe, '83, and that was never intended to end up on vinyl. The reason why it did was because a lot of fans had written during the years asking for demos, and we said that we never did make any demos, and because obviously we didn't end up in that situation where we had to make demos to get a record deal, because we ended up with 2 tracks on the compilation album as early as in January 1984. And from then on we made an album, like I said, every 20 months, and we've been picking the fans' favorite track from each and every one of those albums. 3 or 4 from each album, the best ones, and just remastered it and put it out in a sort of a marble package. And hopefully those who bought the records back in '83 and '84 will enjoy it in the same way as they did it back then.
Welcome to the show.
Hi.
You have a new album. I'm now joined by Quorthon of Bathory. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
You have a new album out.
Hammermoss.
And new video, 10 minutes long.
Yes, One Road Towards the Bay. It took 250 people, 8 horses, a lot of clothing and feeding, driving and acting, myself as well.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's a new market opening up, and it's interesting to go in there, as interesting as making records.
And you're going to release an all video and pull songs off the album before you actually come over here to tour?
Yeah, all the lyrics are written in that way that it's very easy to transform it into video. And we'll go back to Sweden now and do 2 more videos, and then set the tracks for the 6th LP.
So when we can actually expect to see you over here?
Hopefully next spring. That will be the time to come, since we are trying to come up with a personal musical identity and get away from everything that people have thought of us before. People tend to have these preconceived notions about you when you, for 7 years, has been playing rather speed-oriented metal, and then once you change, it's not a change overnight. It's the change that's been going on for 2 years.
Well, why don't you intro the new video that everyone can see it?
Okay, you just sit down, relax, and you're about to see Sweden being Christianized. One road to Forsberg in November.
Strange tangle of peace. It was recorded during the summer of 1980, and it contains only 7 tracks, but it's 1 hour long. So from that aspect, you get a lot of music for the money. It's a little bit different from all the other tracks because it's slower and heavier.
And what about the lyrics, such as of the album?
It's, we are concerning a little bit more about the Viking thing now, since it's a lot more important for us than the, the devil thing. We were thinking about the devil for many years, but the problem with us was that we didn't put any humor into it. That people were, serious.
So you think that any things are already...
It's up to anybody to do it, It's up to anybody to sing about it. But you have to be true. You can't just sing about it because it's funny. You have to mean it as well. After a while, it's going to go shallow. It's not going to be true anymore. You have to be true to what you're doing.
Yeah, there are a lot of things now, national and international, that rip off bands.
Oh, yeah.
Bands. What do you think about that?
Well, it's up to everybody rip off someone, from one aspect or another. But it's up to anybody to do whatever they want. But it's the people who will decide if a band is going to succeed with this or not is really the fans. Because if you copy too much, fans is going to, after a while, realize, they're only copying this and that. So why should I buy their record when I can buy their original?
And what do you think about the Swedish scene?
Oh, well, there are more rock clubs in the central of London than the whole of Scandinavia. So when Bathory started, we didn't have to take care of having an image that would give us a chance to play live in Stockholm, because there were no places to play anyway.
But I have here, and we have interviewed Tricky Compulsion, a band of Stockholm.
Yeah.
And they say the scene there is very, very cool and very healthy.
In Sweden. We don't live in the same country. Where are you from in Sweden?
Stockholm.
No. Hägersten, yeah, that's in south of Stockholm. And they are lying. There is no place to play if you have a metal club. Actually, there are no rock clubs.
But what was your source of inspiration for the Masterpiece track, A Fine Day to Die? Yeah, it's a great track, and the intro. I don't even talk about the intro.
Well, you can...
Great. Fucking great.
You can take A Fine Day to Die and translate it into just about anything. A bunch of men on horses or whatever, being attacked by a major force. And, you have to stand up for what you're doing. I mean, regardless if you know you're gonna die or not, tomorrow the battle will stand and it's a fine day to die. Regardless if you're gonna win or lose or die or whatever, it's a fine day to die. In case you die, well, it's a fine day to die.
And what about Portuguese scene? Did you know anything about it, or did you know anything about it?
I've been in Portugal for, how long? 12 hours?
Yeah.
Well, 12
But
hours.
you haven't heard anything about Portuguese?
No, I was asked before if I knew any Portuguese bands, but I don't. So in case there's anybody who know any Portuguese bands, I heard some on the radio interview 2 hours ago, and that was really good, because I think the record companies concentrate a little bit more on the Portuguese bands. Then perhaps there will be more bands in Portugal, and it's good for metal if Portuguese bands get signed.
And what do you think about the mood here?
This is great. Thumbs up for everybody in here, because if you come to places like London or New York, they know they're used to people coming there every day. But I mean,
We have very few gigs in Portugal, yeah.
yeah, but I mean, the rock guys, they really doesn't need to concern about Portugal at all, and that sucks, because you can be true wherever you live. It doesn't matter. And we want to go all over. We are on a European trip right now. It takes us to through 10 different countries. And Portugal is important for us because we receive letters. Well, from the girl, but letters anyway.
Do you have any plans to play live?
Well, after this promotion trip is done, which is going to take yet another week, we are going to go back to Stockholm and make a video on a ballad, which is on the new LP, song to Hold Up High, and then yet another track, which is called Shores and Plains, which is going to cost a lot of money to do, because it's boats and people and everything. And as soon as that is over, we will record the 6th LP, which will either be titled Twilight of the Gods or True Blood by Thunder. And that one is going to be out sometime during Christmas, and then we'll see. We'd like to come out anyway.
And what's the meaning of Bathory? The name?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we might as well call it the Cockroach Tour, the Hotel Cockroach Tour.
And you are considered a major band. You have records, that's nothing. But are you still in the underground scene?
Oh, yeah.
Do you
have connections with underground.
Well, but the greatest thing, even though, I mean, after 7 years, we're still considered to be an underground band,
Yes,
and we are
that's great.
very flattered by that. I mean, if people would consider us to be a major band, that would mean that we have lost contact with the fans. And if people do consider us to be above underground, we would have to do something that would draw us down to the lower level again.
So you believe that underground, the real metal in
Yes.
in underground?
The metal comes from inside and not from outside.
In the album The Return, you have a track. I think it's the album The Return, dedicated to the Countess. The Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
That's
Why?
Woman of Dark Desires from
Yeah, the Woman of Dark Desire.
third LP.
Yeah.
Why we dedicated it to her? I mean, after
She was burned alive.
Right. She was well, not really burnt alive. Her corpse was burnt. She died because she didn't eat anything. She was involved in her bedroom.
Yeah.
And then he took her body out and stabbed her into pieces and then burned the pieces.
Yeah,
Because-
great track, great track.
That's the way they do to women in Hungary. But that's what she did.
As you're in the underground scene, could you tell us about a few bands that you think are going to make it? You know,
And the underground.
yes, not
There-
only in
oh,
Sweden.
there's-
Not only in Sweden.
There's no, but I mean in Sweden, all over there are so many bands, and it's really up to the record companies. I mean, they have signed so many bands right now. There are probably about 500 speed thrash death metal bands, really good ones that have records out. And even though the bands themselves are a lot of them, there will never be too many more fans. So it's quality that matters, not quantity. And there are certain labels which put out a lot of bands, whereas they don't concern about quality. They're concerned about quantity.
PS is asking me if you still mind at calling you a death metal band.
Well, we was off in 1983. What do you call yourself? You know, because at that time in 1983, 7 years ago, everybody called themselves black metal, and we said, well, okay, our lyrics deals mostly with death, so let's call ourselves death metal. And 6 months later, everybody called themselves death metal, including Hellhammer and Celtic Frost and all that. So, what do we call ourselves now after 7 years? Well, why not power metal? Because we'd rather bet with power that goes to your heart, the noise that goes to your ears.
Quorthon, what are your main influences? Not as a band, you specifically, you Quorthon. What are your main influences?
Your taste.
That would probably be the classical things that I do listen to. Rickard
Not just
Wagner.
band,
Well,
things
I
that
mean-
inspire the track.
I mean, if you write lyrics and music, it really doesn't take anything more than just a piece of paper and a pencil. Because what you have is in your head anyway. You read a good book, you go to the libraries, or you go to the museums, or you have a good dinner, or you make love all night with a woman, or you do a lot of things. I mean, anything can inspire you.
Yeah.
Let's tell me if there was an evolution on your goal since the beginning.
Because there was.
Yes, with what were the difference between your the first goals of the band and the actual?
Well, from the beginning, everybody knows about Scandinavian Metal Attack compilation, the compilation album, on which there are 2 Bathory tracks. The Return of Darkness and Evil and Sacrifice, which was recorded in January 1984. And we had our 2 tracks on that LP basically because the company needed one more band on this. There were 5 bands, and each of these bands had 2 tracks. And I said, hey, take my band because we are really special. Because I was helping the record company out choosing bands for this LP. And as the whole thing turned out, we were the only band who received a lot of fan mail from this LP. And as the thing turned out, the fans wanted us to make the whole LP, and so we did. But by that time, I had kicked the other members out because they weren't concentrating on the band at all.
Yes, you have the status of one-man band.
Yes.
What do you think about that now?
Well, that is very stupid because for 7 years I've been doing interviews with journalists, and the big magazines reached out to a lot of people. They never print the truth, really, because the only thing that they concern more is actually to print things that are exciting, which will sell magazines and, not actually go in the way of the truth. So it's a hell of a job for me going around and telling everybody this is not a one-man band and this is not a project or anything like that. I've been having a lot of problems with members simply because in Sweden there's no real drive to make within rock and roll. If you don't make any money directly, you can go back to the work. Being a computer engineer, which you are educated for in the first place, they cut their hair and, they spend time with their girlfriend and something like that.
She's asking, why do you base your lyrics in Viking mythology?
Because for a lot of years we used to sing about what's below ground, and that's not very nice, especially when you're sending dead rats and dead hamsters in the fan mail and things like that. And you are bound to need to know something different to put it across to the fans. Why not sing about my history? The history of my nation. I mean, you Portuguese, you must be rather proud. I don't know if you can say proud, but you ought to be.
Yes.
You want to be proud about your, daughters, Well, we have the Vikings,
Yeah. Of course. Once you have stayed in Metal Hammer, I read it in Metal Hammer that in the streets of Stockholm I'm just anyone, but on stage I'm Quorthon, the almighty, the evil one. What did exactly? Yeah.
No, I didn't. It was Götz
You didn't.
Götz Köhnemund, the journalist, wrote that.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Time out.
Okay, just one. Last comments for the Portuguese press.
Well, hang on and, stand up for yourself because no matter where you live, what do you look like, how you dress, how much money you have or anything like that, the sword is inside.
This one good. She's asking, what's the meaning of the sign of the black mark?
The sign of the black mark. Well, it's an old saga. This sign. It's very familiar. It's called the sign of Vor, VWR. And it's more or less the sign of the goat, which in the Swedish story, on Christmas night, the goat comes, with a human mind, he can talk. So he talks to all the animals and say, like, have the man been bad to you, beating you and something like that, asking the dog things, and they are mean to the man back on Christmas night. And I draw something which is on the back of the first elf card, the black mark sign. And below that, below ground, you have the 3 claws with black nail. When the black nails stretch you, that means that your soul becomes black. And that's the black mark.
Could you just give it your address?
Time's up, time's up.
You can take it. Could you write your address so that we can send you the deal with the interview?
Okay, brother. This is your house, right?
Quorthon, bye. I hope, and I hope you play a gig here, okay? I'm sorry.
We have more interviews on the hotel, and telephone interviews and photos and radio.
I hope a good promotion to you, okay?
No, the point is, since Twilight, which is 4 years ago, of course. I mean, when we recorded that album, we weren't quite sure what we wanted to do in the future, because we've been covering every part of metal, band metal, death metal, and that epic, arranged kind of music. And we didn't want to continue in that direction, because that would mean probably that what we would have been doing in the future would have been, very complicated for a lot of, people out there trying to stand. And we didn't want to go back either of you, but everybody else was doing a lot of black metal or death metal. We really wanted to come up with fresh ideas and suddenly take a break. And it's been 4 years now. None of these songs was intended for Bathory. All of these songs was written since August last year. And it was only intended for the solo album once I really went off and, had serious plans of doing it. And for any future Bathory albums, that would be completely different from what we've been doing before, and would be completely different from what this Quorthon album is all about. We needed this break for a long time to be able to come up with something fresh and something new. A few influences here and there, a million crossovers and stuff like that. So the next album will be nothing what we've done before. It will not be soft, I can tell you that. It will be very hard, very brutal. Well, I think it's a lot close to Hammerheart or Twilight. Because I mean, at least lyric-wise, I mean, smell the sword, the puffle, and blah blah blah, you know. Twilight was a very introvert, depressive record. And yeah, very, very different from the fiction group. What it was played at a very introverted and depressive record. And myself personally, halfway through the recording, and I figured it was what, you know, could have been more ideas I realized that we paid ourselves to record. Well, at the time, in between Bloodfire Death and Hammerheart, we worked on this album or the material to 3 different sessions. And at the end of one of those sessions, we actually recorded some of the bass material at the same time we recorded the material for Hammerheart. Yeah, so once we had actually scrapped the idea of releasing this concept album rather nice, we tossed with the idea of why don't we put out a double album? You know, because at the time we were sitting there with 25 tracks, 30 tracks all of a sudden. And I believe the Town Count had released a double album. I mean, it was an ordinary album, but it was, I mean, it was an ordinary album, but they'd cut it in for like 33 bits per minute. So they had 2 tracks on one side on it. Yeah, okay, but it was a double album. It would have been a very costly affair, you know, and only many people would have, you know, been able to afford a double album by a band like Bathory. They'd rather buy the best of Black Sabbath or something. But, you know, the point with the video is you produce a video, you spend a certain amount of time and money, and you send it away to, I guess Headbanging Ball, and it's viewed at 1:30 on Sunday midnight or something, and people have to go to school, have to go to work, so if they're not taping the show, they just miss the show altogether. And once it airs 2 or 3 times, it gets a little packet that says aired or show. Well, with Bathory, we had a string quartet on the soul album, and we've had trumpets and trombones and bronze horns and stuff like that. I quit actually listening to classical music 10 years ago. After 8 years, I was ushing. You sort of like to pull yourself up for everything, just, you know, from distorted guitars and stuff like that. I lost everything, I lost them now, and to the point when I actually didn't touch them for 2 years. I mean, the guitar business. Yeah, well, they're very similar in the sense that we, after so many years going into the studio, used 60 tracks only for backing harmony vocals, you know, and big drums and rings. You get very bored. Ask yourself, what the fuck happened to, you know, that punch in the stomach? So you just go in there, like drunken teen, and, you know, just have great fun, you know, just blast off, go in there, fart, and then get out of there. Yeah, it's like kicking some asshole up down the street, guys. You just go in there and have great fun. And because, as to definitely album, whatever you want to call them, Rake and Lockdown, and I realized the Epic number 10 was Bathory because 50% of our record buys, the potential record buys are into the Epic, whereas the other 50% are into the Death. So no matter what your album sounds like, I'm happy you found disappointed. Yeah, and then now I figured, okay, so people have known about this album for quite some time, and I spend all this time, like probably 5 weeks, putting the album together, or patching it up a little bit, beating it up. The next album cannot be an epic or a death metal. It's gonna have to be something in between or something completely different. Well, I didn't know shit about it until I came to England to promote or to actually explain why there was a solo album out, and I can't remember with this war set, like 3 or something. And I didn't know shit because there wasn't anything in the Swedish press. So I said, okay, tell me about it. But they said, okay, these guys are all Bathory fans. They claim your lyrics and you needs to be the main inspiration source to their action. And they're copying everything you did. Actually mixing both the same handling of the mic and shit. And I said, okay, so what? I mean, for a guy to work into the civil market with it or semi-automatic machine gun, hadn't read the Bible too carefully. I mean, are we gonna blame the Bible or the church, or we cannot take responsibility for fucked up people's actions here. Crime the crime, nobody who commits it. Well, it was an isolated case happening in Norway. And Norway is a very conservative country, and people are still referring to it. I mean, talking about it a little too much now, even 5 years later, you know, it's like a book on airplane, a video on airplane, about everything that was going to have to do with good times on airplanes. I'm actually sitting here reading a book on the Manchester right now. As far as the 109%. Yeah, even the first tornado, 1938, the one that turned out to be the Tempest later on. Even the tornado was a very beautiful aircraft crafting. I'm gonna match it into their example.
And I'm trying to tell them, Bathory is not about trying to find the flavor of the week. Bathory is not about trying to hit the trend right in the middle. Bathory is not about trying to receive album des monats reviews. Bathory is not about trying to be on the charts. Bathory is about communication between the audience and us. And nobody else really should, bother. Whenever a journalist says, why don't you come up with something fresh or something new? And then I go, well, then it wouldn't be Bathory. Yeah, but with Bathory you can do practically anything. We could make a black metal album next week, and it would still be Bathory. But it would be different kind of black metal than black metal in the early 80s when we used to do that kind of stuff. When we made Nordland, it was Nordic metal, yes, but it was a completely different type of Nordic metal because we had matured as people and as songwriters and as musicians. And the times are different and the audience is different. We salute our own history and our own geist all the time whenever we make an album, and if people don't like that, if they would want for Bathory to be hippie, militant, vegetarian, lesbian, then okay, not for us. Well, I have a list, of course, because I receive all the pictures regarding stage figures, radio play, and things like that. Everything ends up in my lap sooner or later anyway. So of course I have a very clear, different, detailed list on which albums have sold the most and which styles are more popular than other styles. If you take the Nordic styles, for instance, those albums, people who are into gothic metal to listen very easily to Nordic metal, whereas people who are into gothic metal or Iron Maiden stuff, they can't listen to black metal. There's too big difference. So the Nordic albums are the albums that have sold the most. And then you have a record like the first album. That album has been out for 20 years, so of course that record has amassed an enormous sales figure. But not because it's the world's best album, not because it's the longest album, it's only 26 minutes. But it's the Bathory debut album, and everybody sort of needs to have it because it's Bathory's debut. And for historical reasons, people are still continuing to buy that record, and we sell something between 2,000 and 4,000 every month. And it's insane, because that album sounds worse than my washing machine. But for, sentimental value and for historical reasons, that album is one of the top-selling records. And it's also been out there for 20 years or so. It's been able to amass a greater sales figures than a lot of the records of the 90s that was killed by the magazine. Of course, I respect all the records, and I'm equally proud of each and every one of them. Some of them I would have liked to... If I would have a time machine, I would like to travel back, of course, and change a lot of things, but then you would change Bathory's history. And if you try to change history instead of looking forward into the future and learn something from history, then you're one of those revisionists who are saying that the worst kind got comma. So instead of trying to change history, learn something from history, accept the fact, and move into the future. Now I don't have a favorite, because a lot of those albums I don't even remember. There was one kid who asked me in an email, how did you write that passage, or how did you do that? And I had to call Black Mark and said, hey, can you send me that record? Because I don't have the record myself, and I couldn't remember the song. And 1 week later, when I received the CD and I was listening to it, then I could answer the kid. So if he had asked me face to face, I wouldn't be able to answer him. But now, when I was opening the record and I was playing it, then I could answer it.